Hello my peeps, this Algebra Nation video will cover workbook page 40. We'll do problem number 1, part A.
It's Ashley. Let's go ahead and get started on solving our first equation for x. So in this problem, we have a part A and a part B. So it's just two different equations. So what we want to do is solve for x. X is our variable. We don't know what it is. We want to figure out what number is equal to x. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our first one. We have negative 4 times x plus 10, so the entire thing x plus 10, minus 6. And that is equal to negative 3 times x minus 2. So what's the first thing that you think when you see this problem? You could think, I need to get rid of those parentheses. Remember, when we're trying to solve for x, the ultimate goal is to get x on one side of your equal sign and your number on the other side of the equal sign. But to get to that point, we've got a lot of steps to do. The first one is to get rid of parentheses. Remember, order of operations? We've got to get rid of those parentheses. How do we do it? Well, we get rid of parentheses by distributing. So what we have to do is distribute what's outside of the parentheses to each piece inside of the equation. So inside each piece in the parentheses. So we need to distribute that negative 4 to both terms in our parentheses. So our first one, we got to distribute the negative 4 to the x and the negative 4 to the 10. When I see x right here, how many x's is that? It's just 1, so we can actually put in a 1 right there and think about that as 1x. So I distribute. What does distribute mean? Distribute means multiply. I'm going to take that negative 4 and multiply by my first term, which is x. So I have negative 4 times x, or negative 4x. Now I do my next term. Well, I have a negative on the outside and a positive on the inside. So what am I going to have? A negative or a positive? What's a negative times a positive? It's negative. So I'm going to do my negative 4 times positive 10. I have minus 4 times 10. Now, do I need to distribute the negative 4 to this negative 6? No, we only distribute to what is inside the parentheses. So let's just go ahead and write negative 6. Saying negative 4 times x plus 10 is the same thing as saying negative 4x minus 4 times 10. Okay, and then we've got our minus 6, so we write that as well. Now we have our equal sign. Well, what do I see over here? Same thing, I've got to distribute. I want to get rid of these parentheses. So I have an x by itself, so that's really just saying 1x. Well, I have a negative times a positive, so I'm going to have a negative right here. Negative 3 times 1x. 3 times 1 is just 1. 3 times x, what do I get? Negative 3x. All right, now I'm not done yet. I need to distribute that negative 3 to each term inside the parentheses. So I also need to distribute that negative 3 to this negative 2. Well, a negative times a negative is what? A negative times a negative is positive. I do 3 times 2, and I get 6. 3 times 2 is 6. Well, let's see what we get. We need to combine like terms. We need to combine like terms. Well, first off, let's get rid of this negative 4 times 10. Let's write this equation out again. We have negative 4x. What is a negative 4 times 10? Well, negative times a positive, we're going to get a negative. 4 times 10 is 40. So we get negative 4x minus 40, bring down our minus 6, is equal to negative 3x plus 6. Now what do we need to do? Combine like terms. Where do I see like terms? Well, on each side of the equal sign, I've got to look at the left and I've got to look at the right. On the left of my equal sign, I see that I can combine these two terms. How do I combine a negative 40 and a negative 6? I have a negative 40 minus 6. I have a negative 40 and a minus 6. Negative 40, negative 6. Combine them, what do I get? Negative 46. So what I see here is I get negative 4x because there's no terms on the left that have an x in it, so I just bring down that negative 4x minus 46. All right, now let's look at my other side of the equation. Are there any terms that I can combine? No. So we just write it. Negative 3x plus 6. Now what? Now we're getting close. Remember, I want to get my variables on one side of the equation and my numbers on the other. So how do I do it? Well, if I only want to see variables on my left side of the equation, I need to get rid of any variables that I see on the right. So where are the variables on the right side of the equal sign? Well, we have a negative 3x. How do you get rid of that? You have to do the inverse operation. You have to do the opposite. So what is the opposite of a negative 3x or a minus 3x? Plus, right, the inverse of subtraction is addition. So in order to get rid of that negative 3x, we add 3x. And remember, whatever we do on one side of the equation, we have to do on the other. So I'm also going to add 3x to this side of the equation. Let's see what I get. Well, this negative 3x and this plus 3x, those cancel out, right? You have negative 3x, add 3x to it, you're left with 0. What about that 6? Well, that 6 is left by itself, so we bring that down. What do we have over here? We have a negative 4x plus 3x. A negative 4x plus 3x. If I have negative 4 and I add 3 to it, what am I left with? A negative 1. I have a negative 1x. If I only have 1x, do I need to write the 1? No. Saying negative x is the same thing as saying negative 1x. Now that negative 46, we've also got to bring that down. Well, now what do I have? Well, my ultimate goal is to get my variable on one side of the equation and my numbers on the other. So this number right here, this negative 46, I need to get rid of it. I have negative x minus 46. Well, what is the inverse of subtraction? We just did that. It was addition. So to get rid of this minus 46, I need to add 46 to both sides. I need to add 46. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this up here. I'm just at negative x minus 46 equals 6. I added 46 to one side, so whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Let's see what we get. Well, our negative 46 and our positive 46 cancel out. So on my left of the equation, I have negative x. Well, what about over here? What do I have here? 6 plus 46. Can you add those together? Yeah, they're both numbers. They're like terms, so we can add those together. 6 plus 46 gives us 52. Are we done? Have we solved for x? No. Remember, we need to get x by itself. Is x by itself? No, it's got a negative sign right there. We don't want to solve for negative x. We want to solve for x. So how do we get rid of that negative sign? Remember, really this is a negative 1x. We can divide by negative 1, because a negative divided by a negative is going to give us a positive. Now, whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other. So what does that leave us with? Well, this negative 1 divided by negative 1 cancel out, and we're left with x on the left. What do we get over here? What's a positive divided by a negative? A positive divided by a negative is a negative. What's 52 divided by 1? 52. So we've got